Boy, oh boy, was that ugly. Man, if you're a Georgia Tech fan, y'all got to give a shout out to, obviously, the football gods, man. The football gods, man, they saved Georgia Tech in this one because this was ugly. Georgia Tech struggled mightily, man, and they did slow key have a problem on their hands, right? And it's going to be something that has to be talked about. And it's the slow starts to games, right? Respectfully, right? They were down 17-3 at this point. I think they had less than 90 yards of total offense in the first half. I think Haynes King might have had 50 yards through the air passing. They have to figure that out. Now, credit to Wake Forest, right? They was prepared for them. They prepared 16 days for this team in order to slow them down in their tendencies, right? Georgia Tech couldn't run the football. Like, between both of the backs, and both of them are dynamic in Malachi Jose and Jamal Haynes, they had 57 yards combined. Now, Haynes King carried the day there with 106 yards by his dang self with 20 carries. But besides that, it was tough sledding all day for Georgia Tech in terms of on the ground, right? And they had to win it through the pass. They was basically saying, y'all going to have to beat us through the pass. So, that was obviously a key part of the game, right? And then Robbie Ashford going down. Credit the defense, man. After that point, 12 plays, they had only 22 yards of total offense after he went down, right? They slowed down Purdy, and they kept forcing 3-and-outs and punts. Same thing, playing that complimentary football, getting the ball back to the offense. So credit them. And then another thing of this game, in the red zone, they were able to slow them down. Now, right, you'll look, oh, well, Wake Forest, Nas was 4 for 5. Remember, y'all, they could have went up 7 points at the end of the half, right? They force a field goal. That's 17-3, right? They go down the field. Obviously, on one of their drives, they could have went up big, and put a touchdown on the board, right? That would have been 24-3. No, end up kicking the field goal. It's 20-3. They're still in the game, right? As the offense figures it out. And then towards the end of the game, same thing, right? You have the forced turnover. Great play made by the Wake Forest defender on Jamal Haynes, and they force another field goal. So defense, to me, did a pretty decent job, barring the circumstances. I think my concern, and I said in my takeaways article on SI, is how much longer is the defense going to be to do that? And they're going to be to carry that the entire year. That's a lot to ask for. But this defense is complimentary, right? They make the right plays when they need to. They did make a lot of mistakes today, for sure. But they've always been able to have that bend, don't break mentality, and that was huge in this one. Now, let's talk about just a breakdown of some of the game, right? Defense did give up a lot of yards, 443 yards total, right? They allowed, obviously, Ashford to throw for over 220-plus yards, right? But didn't allow a touchdown by him, right? So that's obviously a good job there. But where they're struggling this year is rushing attack. 210 yards they gave up in this game. Damon Claiborne, who was nursing injury in and out of the lineup, he rushed for 119 yards and 2 touchdowns in this game. Before Ashford went down, he had 82 yards and a touchdown in this game as well. They have to be better there. Now, mind you, Claiborne is one of the better running backs in the ACC. So I understand, I get it. It happens to the best of us. You know what I'm saying? But they have to be better there if they want to be an elite team. But credit them because they gave up a lot of explosive plays, as I talked about in the article. 3 plays of over 35-plus yards. But guess when that came? That came in the first half of the game. After that, they turned it up a little bit, and they were obviously able to limit those explosive plays. Look at the stat line. 2 plays, 65 yards for Micah Mays, and then obviously you had Kristen Barnes with 3 plays for 3 catches for 39 yards. So, yeah, I think they did a good job there, And then I think, too, like, obviously I know they like Zachary Toby, but how long he is. I think, too, Georgia Tech, in terms of the secondary, which we'll talk more about here in a second, I think they should start Daquan White and give him a little bit more playing time. Now, there's some controversy at the end of that game that a lot of people said that would have pretty much ended the game for Wake Forest when he obviously was in the neutral zone. But like I said, you got to think the football guys there, they didn't call it. But that's definitely a missed call by the ACC and the refs and everything. But sometimes you need that in seasons, man, to help you out and help you get you to where you want to be at. Tech was obviously a beneficiary of that. But I thought Daquan, for the most part, played a pretty good game. He wasn't giving up big plays. I think he's a player that should obviously play more. Another player that was making plays in the backfield for Georgia Tech was Amontre Bradford. I think he needs to play more. I think he's having a big impact, man. He had 2 TFLs today. I think he needs to see the field more. Georgia Tech lacked a pass rush in this game, which allowed them to cook in the first half with 17 unanswered points after taking up a 3-0 lead. They have to find a way to get more plays in the backfield. Credit to, obviously, Blake Gideon for throwing out blitzes and things like that, but it's not consistent enough, and that is hurting them with how much time they have to throw. I think they have the secondary to cover, but they got to be able to get to the backfield. They need a disruptor, and still kind of searching for answers there. So, yeah, I think red zone is what won Georgia Tech this game, especially defensively, and their ability to just keep them in the game while the offense figured it out. So that's one of my biggest takeaways in this one, and I think Georgia Tech, too, as well. They have a turnover problem. Yellow Jackets have 7 turnovers this year compared to just 10 in 2024, right? And it came at the most inopportune time, right? It's 2020. You're trying to go up and win the game potentially with like about 5 minutes left in the game. Unfortunately, Jamal Haynes fumbles the ball, right? And like I said, once again, your defense saves you with obviously forcing a field goal. It has to be better, man. You're killing your defense, doing that consistently. But I want to credit them. Like I said, the bend, don't break mentality has helped this team out a lot this year. And with all the turnovers they had and these slow starts, yet again, the defense has stepped up big for Georgia Tech. My game ball, however, it goes to Haynes King. I mean, once again, put his body on the line. He was the reason why they were able to get going in the second half. Him and Eric Rivers. Eric Rivers had 8 catches for 77 yards in this one, y'all, and a touchdown. The quick throws to him got Haynes in a rhythm, and that helped them. They were down 20-3 at one point in this game, but those quick throws, those out routes, it got the offense cooking, and then they were able to score 3 consecutive times. So Haynes King put his body on the line, nearly 350 yards of total offense. He also set a record for Georgia Tech. He is just the first player in program history with 13 games of a passing touchdown and a rushing touchdown. So he did all he could do, man. Like I said, took care of the football. He didn't turn it over. He was their leading rusher again. And like I said, his legend continues to grow. There were some people in the comments on Twitter was like, oh, we need to throw Follow in. Again, I don't know what y'all talking about. Let King do his thing. I mean, it's just unnecessary. If the offense struggles in the first half, it's okay. Like, he's done nothing to get his starting role revoked. I don't understand it. It's blasphemy to me what they're doing online and how every time Georgia Tech struggles in the first half or it's a moment of lapse or something for King or something happens, they want to take him and yank him out of the game. Like, enough. Also, quietly, I think Isaiah Kenyon is starting to come on. 4 catches, 70 yards. I had a prediction that he would go for 100 yards. He was close to that. Had a drop or two in there. That kid is getting better. You combine Rivers with Isaiah Kenyon, who is emerging for them. That's big. They need to involve him more as well. In the first half, he was barely, I could barely see him on the field. I know they want to run the ball. That is a good thing. They need to do that. That's their identity. But when it's not working and when you can't physically dominate the team, use your passing attack. You obviously can do it in this one, and they stepped up big for you. Use those receivers that you got. You got a plethora of receivers you can throw the ball to in space and let them cook. Get Isaiah Kenyon the ball more. Same with, obviously, Eric Rivers, in my humble opinion. And this is going to get lost. But shout out to the tight ends, Josh Beetham and obviously J.T. Byrne. They made some big catches down the field in critical moments in this game, moving the chains, second down, getting into the red zone would obviously beat them, right? On that last play, they're trying to get into field goal range, big-time catch, obviously by J.T. Byrne. It'll go unnoticed, but they did a really good job in this game, I thought, of making timely plays. But yeah, y'all, like I said, sometimes you need this. I think Georgia Tech is a very good bye week. They had players coming kind of in and out of the lineup with injuries and being hurt. But this was a big victory, man. 5-0 on the year, man. First time since 2014. You'll take it. I don't think they will move up too much surviving this game. They'll probably be right around that 16-15 range, which I think they need to be at, right? And then they get to go and reassess everything before they prepare for Virginia Tech at home on October 11th. It's a process, y'all. Every win is not going to be pretty, but I think the team did a really good job. When Coach Key challenged them, like I think it was in the second quarter, he was all talking to them, and they were down 14 points at half. I think they did a good job of answering the call and having resolve and responding. So I think that was obviously critical for them and speaks to this team that's continuing to learn. Because remember, they went from the hunter, they are now the hunted. Because like I said, they're going to be favored in every game moving forward, right? So how do you answer every team's best punch, right? When they punch you in the mouth, how do you answer? I thought Georgia Tech did a great job today of answering that call. Last but not least, my defensive game ball. Obviously, I talked about Kyle Efert in my article. Also want to give a shout out to Amari Harvey. I talked about him in an article I had this week. He did a really great job in this game. 5 tackles, 2 TFLs. He was all over the field. I thought he had one of his better games as well, especially covering. He's getting better and better, and it's been very good for Georgia Tech, the unsung hero and leader of that back end of that defense. Want to give Amari Harvey a shout out as well. But that is it, y'all. That's my reaction. That's my thoughts, man. Stay tuned to Georgia Tech on SI for all of the updates. We'll have the press conferences, what the players had to say, and much, much, much more along with the takeaways. Catch y'all in the next one.